What's up? How you doing? Here we are, beautiful day. It's evening time. Busy day today, but now it's over, and we're getting ready for dinner. Today I'm having pasta with chicken, nice sauce, and they're having the rest of my family is having a similar meal. So yesterday I was talking about First Rambo movie came out in '82, and I was brought to that movie secretly. So what happened was, I had a friend of mine, and he knew about this movie. I didn't know. It was like brand new. I didn't know much about anything of this. Not much. I didn't know anything about this movie, the fact that it was out, or anything about it. And he said to me, he called me up one day, I think it was Rotary back then, and he said, "You want to go see a movie?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." So we ended up going by bus, because that's the way we traveled in those days, public transportation. So we went up there, and he goes, I'm not gonna tell you what this is. I'll get the ticket." So he went and bought the matinee ticket there, and then he gave me one, and I read the title, obviously, because I'm going in there, but I had no idea who was in it, anything. So I go and I sit down, and from the opening scene, it grabbed me. Everything about it spoke to me. So I enjoyed that movie, and I remember it as if we went yesterday. Even though we were underage, the usher came in. They would come in and take a look around, and they didn't bother us, which I'm glad. I'm glad I got to see the movie. But that movie, everything about it spoke to me. I can't say the same for the rest of them. The rest of them were entertaining, but no, they didn't have that magic. So I said something yesterday that turns out to be a bit inaccurate, all the way inaccurate. All the stuff I said, besides this, the Zippo. Where's the Zippo? I have a Zippo. I carry it in case I go hiking or out one of these pockets, or I go out, barbecuing or something. Carry a Zippo. I love Zippo. Look at that. See that? So I said yesterday, how is it possible that that Rambo, after he rams into that gas station and tears out the pumps, and the gasoline is going into the air like a geyser, all that mist everywhere, how is it possible that after being underwater, the Zippo in his pocket, being underwater for a long time, because he had to escape out of that cave system, that tunnel system, and he had no top on, really, no pockets in there, so the only place he could have kept this was in his pants pocket. And since he was underwater most of the time, waist down was underwater, then this thing was soaked, and when this gets wet, you can't get it going for a long time. It has to dry out. But I made a mistake. I did mention Robert A. yesterday. He was the guy driving the Deuce and a Half, where Rambo jumps off the side of the road, the cliff, and lands on top. If you see that scene, though, it's impossible. He's up here, and the road is over here. If he jumped from here to get onto that truck, by the time he jumped and landed, that truck would have been gone, first of all. The second thing is that the cliff is too far away. Truck is over here, the cliff is over here. If he jumped, he would have, gotten into the breakdown lane if he was lucky, but not on top of the truck. And that Robert A., dizzy. He didn't hear this whole 165-pound man jump and land on top. You don't notice that. You don't see, what was that? Was that a vulture? So anyway, if you play that scene, you will notice that Robert A., after Rambo lands on top and goes into the side door, is trying to light up a cigarette. And how's he lighting it up? Zippo. Get the Zippo, and he's got it on, and then all of a sudden Rambo jumps in, and the Zippo falls, looks like it falls on the floor. Apparently Rambo caught it with his eye. He said, oh, there's a Zippo lighter in there, I may need that later. And so once Robert A. jumps out, because he forces him out, he goes, go, move, get out, right? So he gets out, and then Rambo continues on. Now, to me, it looked like he was driving for a long time. It gets even darker. I mean, how far was this? I've been to Hope. I've been to Hope, and I did the whole outline of where Rambo ended up going. That forest is not that far away. That mountain is not that far away. Plus, it's in a weird direction, because where, you know, he gets dropped off the police department, then he gets on the bike and goes over the railroad tracks. It's kind of like a weird way he went, but he ended up going that way. That's not the way you would go if you drove. And it's not that far, but when he's driving the deuce and a half, it looks like it takes him about an hour to get there, because it's dark out. Now, it could have been getting dark, because sometimes I sit out here and there's light out, and then within, like, you know, 15 minutes or so it's dark. So it's always possible. But anyway, I just wanted to correct that little thing I said yesterday, that, you know, Rambo must have had this in his pants in the pocket. He didn't. He ended up getting this from Robert A. after Robert A. dropped it in the deuce and a half. And at some point he must have reached down and grabbed it, even though I don't know if you would have noticed that. If you see the actual you know, clip, I mean, he sees that he has a lighter, but he kind of drops it fast, and with all that violence jumping over the police cars when Rambo is driving and they're shooting at him, this thing would have ended up, I have things I drop in my truck and they vanish forever. You know, I don't know where they go, but they vanish. So, I mean, he was lucky to find this. You know how things get in the corner there, you can't get them out? So that's what he had. But the rest of the stuff I said made perfect sense. I mean, here you are, you knock out the pumps, there's a ton of pressure, gasoline in the air, and that mist is landing on you. But here you go, and boom, you light up the thing, the Zippo, and toss it. You would have lit up like a Christmas tree. You know, you ask any woman from the 70s with the Aquanet, you know, just a little Aquanet was enough to light up your head on fire if somebody passed by with a candle. So anyway, yeah, I love Zippo. Zippo has saved me a few times when I went barbecuing in the desert, and I have these I don't know what they call them, hot plates, but they're you know, they run on propane, and they have a little spark thing, you know, where you can push a button, it'll create a spark and it'll light it up. But one of the things I took one time wasn't sparking up, was not sparking up. Plus it was a little bit windy, so I had a Zippo, and I went in there and I went one of these things, you know, all you need is a spark, and it lit it right up. And it's like a 50s thing, 40s, 50s, you know, those tough guys, the greasers, they always had a Zippo. They were addicted to the you know, the nicotine, and they would smoke like a couple of packs, some of them even more. It's not a very popular habit anymore. Very, very disgusting habit. Awful. If you're smart, you don't get involved with that. You know, it's an awful habit. And vaping is another disgusting thing. Vaping is even worse. It's more addictive. Yeah, maybe it's not as damaging, and we don't even know. But anyway, that's for another, you know. But I use it for camping and, you know, camping. Nothing. I mean, what else am I trying to think? If I light maybe like those candles here. Like the other day, I lit a candle, and I used the Zippo. But that's it. That's it. There's not many, fireworks. If I go to Nevada, there's a bunch of places out off the highway there. You know what's ironic when I go out there? I'll tell you what's ironic. Valley of Fire. So just before you go to enter the Valley of Fire, that road, there's a huge gas station. And what does the gas station sell? Fireworks. I find that ironic. I find it weird that gas stations selling fireworks. I mean, not that they're going to go off any easier than anything else. If there's no fire, there's no fire. But just the concept of it, that you're selling fireworks in a gas station. And I don't mean small stuff. I mean, you name it, they have it. You name it, they have it. So I will bring a lighter along and I will light fireworks. I enjoy the rockets. When I was a kid, I would go to the Italian part of town and I would buy fireworks by myself. I was little. I would go down there and a guy would come up to me and he would say, what do you need? And then I would say, give me a keg of firecrackers, give me a keg of jumping jacks, give me a gross of bottle rockets, and then I would get the big rockets too. I'd get a dozen of those. And then some kid, the runner, they'd give him this little piece of paper that the guy wrote all these things on. It was all like abbreviated. They'd hand it to him and then he'd run. He'd cut through the basketball courts and you'd wait there, I don't know, like 10 minutes or so. And I would always look around, it was in the middle of a basketball court area in an alley. Anybody knows the place knows exactly what I'm talking about. And I look around and there were all these brick apartment buildings that were built there in the 1800s surrounding the basketball court area. So anybody that lived there could look down and say, okay, I'm calling the cops. Those guys are selling fireworks again. But nobody called the cops ever. And then the runner would come back and he would have everything wrapped up like the way they do it at a Chinese restaurant to go. When you buy Chinese food to go, that's how they wrap it up. Exactly. So it looked like you had Chinese food. So I would take that and then I would get on the train and I'd head back home and start lighting them up. Get home and light the rockets up. I was careful not to, do anything dangerous, but every once in a while you'd get one blown off in your hand. You get a nice red dot there from the explosion. Your ears would ring. And I'll tell you something, one time I bought a ton of firecrackers. They were $8 for a keg, 80 packs. And $8, 80 packs. So I bought like 4 of those. And I went over to my grandfather's house. And my mother went upstairs visiting. I went up, I said hello. Then I went downstairs and I had a bunch of matches. And I started lighting them off. Not one cracker at a time, firecracker, but packs at a time, Sometimes I would tie the wicks together and light up 5-6 packs at once. Sounded like, rifles going off. So my grandfather would always say, you see that house? And he would point across the street diagonally. There was an old man who lived in that house. He probably lived in that town for his whole life. In that house, he was probably there from a baby and he grew up into an old man. And he was watching. You'd see him at the, pull the curtain aside and look at what was going on. And I saw him a few times. I thought he was just being entertained. And my grandfather said that's kind of like the watchdog of the neighborhood. So as I'm lighting the firecrackers, they're going off. I'm like keg number 2 or something. And then I got 2 more stashed on top of the, it was like brick steps. So at one point, as I'm doing the bum, 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 I was thinking in my head, imagine now if I turn around and there's a, police. The police are right behind on the road, because the road was right in the front there. And there was a gate. And just as the last firecracker went off in that series, I turned around and it was 2 cops in their police car, and they gave me a look and they said, give us all that stuff. I should have said, for what? For your kids? And they took all my stuff, and they didn't, they basically, just drove off. And then I look up and I saw the old guy looking, so I go, he did it. That guy called the cops. And then another time, I had jumping jacks, which I love. I love jumping jacks. They look like firecrackers, but when you light them up, they don't explode, they don't make noise, but they spin and they change colors, and they make a little, like, it's a sound like, it's that kind of a sound. So anyway, I had 4 of those, 4 kegs of the jumping jacks, and it was nighttime. It was 4th of July. And here I am lighting them off, pack at a time. I'm walking up the street, I'm just lighting them off. And, I had so many that I was like, I couldn't light them up fast enough. So all of a sudden, at the top of the street, which would have been like maybe 300 feet away, there were cops with their lights going down the street. And the light shone right on me. And I had the things like in my shirt, the rest of them. I had like 3 more kegs I was carrying around. I had one that was loose, lighting it up. I could have lit up, right? Like a Christmas tree. So anyway, they get on their little microphone there and they're like, bring that stuff over here, right? So as I'm walking, they have the light on me. Now I don't want to give all my stuff, so I take the stuff as I'm walking towards them. I kind of like shift my body and I throw them to the side into some bushes. And I keep going, and when I got up there, I handed the keg that was half used, and he took it, and then he goes, and now go back over there. He goes in the bushes and give me the other ones that you threw in there. So I went in there and I gave him the other ones, but I had more at home. But anyway, that's what happened. I was a little bit annoyed with that. I was like, it's 4th of July, but from the point of view that I have now as an older person, I'm not a fan of fireworks anymore. Like, in that setting, very dangerous. You could start a fire, So, not a fan. If you want to light things like that, you have to go somewhere where there's like the desert. But then, you litter, right? When that stuff blows up, you don't sit there with a rake and pull it back in and put it in a bag and leave. I do that now. I collect all this stuff now. But back then, when you lit something like a rocket, you didn't run around trying to find out where that stuff went. So, now I'm not a big fan of that. I will light fireworks off once in a while when I go to like a remote location, and I will light some up. But, I'm not 12 anymore either. So it does not appeal to me like it once did. You grow up, you mature. Things that were fascinating when you were, a little kid, they're not fascinating anymore. As a matter of fact, you get a little bit older, they seem more dangerous. I think your brain develops over time and is able to analyze things and make better judgments. That's what happens. Things I did that were dangerous when I was a kid, I wouldn't do now. For one thing, I used to you get on top of a tall building and run around and jump from one to the other, if they're close. I would not do that now. Jumping my bike. Can't tell you how many jumps, how many things I jumped over, how many stairs I jumped over. Now I look at it and I go, I don't know, that looks kind of like I'll lose my balance and hit the ground. So, I wouldn't do it now. You drive safer when you get older. I was never into that crazy driving. Never into that. Even back then, there were I had a higher standard for analyzing danger than most people my age did. I did dangerous things, but there was a point where I looked at it and said, I'm not doing that with the car. So I did jump the car one time with my friend Vinny, but we didn't get up that, talking about that much off the ground. And then we landed. It was very rough, and I go, yeah, I had this idea that when I got my driver's license, I would be like, the Dukes of Hazzard, jumping over long distances. And when I did that with my friend Vinny and I landed, I go, that's rough. I'm not doing that. I mean, you gotta look at it and say, I was off the ground, I don't know, 5 inches. I don't even know if it was that much. But then when we landed, it felt like somebody picked us up and threw us. So you can imagine if you jumped something that was like 20 feet up and then landed, you know, the car would be demolished. So yeah, you mature, you see things differently, and so you should never be judged on the craziness you did when you were a kid, because when you get to a certain age, that vanishes. You don't think that way anymore, and you don't do that stuff anymore. Like right now, like I said, I would not jump my bike. I have a bike, and sometimes, you know, when I'm on a bike and I'm looking at like the edge of a, you know, that granite that curves into the driveway, I used to use that corner to jump off of. I'd hit it hard and I'd bunny hop and I'd, you know, get up in the air. Even that now I don't think I want to do. You end up screwing up. Your grip is not tight enough, and then you fall over the top. The bike runs you over. Smash your head in. But yeah, you think differently. You kind of analyze things better when you get older. So, I recommend this book. Good information in it. So, this is what I have. Check this out. See it? What's it say? Greek mountain tea. I love this stuff. Love this stuff. You go to Greece, you go up on a mountain in Greece, and you can find this all over the place. You take out your little knife, and you can collect a big batch. Good for the whole winter, right? But here you don't find it. You don't find it in the mountains. I've looked. So I have seeds of Greek mountain tea, which I'm going to get a nice big pot. Get some good soil, I don't know, Miracle Grow, maybe a little bit of cow manure in there, mix it in, and I'm going to plant this stuff. And they have directions in here. Barely cover seeds and tamp in well. Tamp, I guess it means tap. Get it nice and tight. Keep warm and moist, and in a light until germination, which occurs in about 10 days. Plants prefer full sun and very fast draining soil. So these things, they grow 18 inches, about that high. But they're very, it's a very good, it's not real tea. I don't think there's any caffeine in this, but it's very soothing. Very soothing. A little bit of honey, a little bit of lemon. Bunch of times I took this mountain tea, Greek mountain tea, to the desert, brought water with me, and I made some and took a little drinky poo and enjoyed it. It was very good. So we'll do that. In the future, I may become Johnny Appleseed with this stuff. I may go and spread it throughout the mountains here. So people will one day walk by and say, hey, there's Greek mountain tea, and they will say, legend has it, there was a guy who came here and planted it by hand, all of this stuff that you see, and then it spread. So, and then, you know, then I'll just go up there and collect it. What else? Have some Benadine. That red stuff they spray on you, or they have like a cotton thing and they put it on you so you don't get an infection when you get a cut or when they cut you in the hospital. But I bought it. You never know. It says ideal for minor cuts, wounds, scrapes, and burns. Kills 99.9% of germs. Also prevents infection. Works in seconds. No stinging or burning. So I have it. I carry it around. You never know. You know, I have kids. We go hiking. And, you know, if they fall down, I'll have the spray out. And this one is good because it dries up. Unlike Neosporum or Polysporum, whatever, where it remains greasy on you. And then everything, every little piece of dirt collects on there. This one doesn't have that property. So this one's 5% iodine. See? I like it, but if you get it on your clothes, it's done. The shirt's done. Has that familiar smell. Bought a chain. So some people call this an atlas. That's what they say. They say people call this an atlas. The only person I have heard call this an atlas is Evel Knievel. He's the one that always referred to this as an atlas. Everybody I know just call it a chain. But check that out. This, I don't know if you can see that well, but look at that. That's a bicicleta chain. Bicicleta chain. And you know, you can take links out, make it shorter, and then I have 2 connecting links that they give you. Well, they're in there, trust me, I don't want to spill them. And then I have a device here that if you want to connect more links, see that? You put the chain in there, and then you tighten this side, then you tighten this side, and it'll push it together so you have a longer chain, or like I said, you can shorten it and then reattach it. Or you can bust somebody's head open with this if they come near you and you feel threatened. You know, you fold it up like that and you just, you know. But if you do that, make sure that you don't get them angry to the point where they come after you and take this chain and bust your head up with it. So, you know, that's always a possibility that they take this and use it on you. So me, I like it. Get this. I have it as a backup. In case one of the bikes, the chain breaks, I have this. We save it, and then when we need it, we use it. It's made for a 10-speed bike. I remember when I was little, my bike would need a repair now and then. Spokes would get all, you know, warped, and the tire would wiggle, and so I would take it down to the repair shop, and the guy, you know, would take one of these out, or one of these. You know, I've shown these before, but yeah, one of these, and then you tighten each spoke a little bit. As you rotate the tire, you see where the wobble is, and you tighten until eventually the tightness removes the warp. And so I eventually ended up buying, you know, this stuff, and I would experiment in my basement so that I wouldn't have to keep taking it to the repair shop. And eventually I learned how to do pretty much everything on the bike because it's not that complicated, right? But early on when I was little, there was a really good bike repair guy in my area there, and I would go down there and he would fix things up on my bike and make it brand new again. And then my father would, you know, pull out the cash back then, start counting. And I remember one time we fixed the bike up, and I'm looking into the they had like a, what do you call that, like a display. That's what they had, a display. And I'm looking, they had a stick shift in there, 1 through 5. I had a 5-speed, a Paulo Ross 5-speed, but mine was had that stick there, switching gears, and I wanted it to look like I was shifting gears like a car. So I looked over at my father and I said, "Can I get that?" And he goes, "What is that?" And I said, "It's it's a shifter for the gears. And I thought he was going to say to me like usual, you know, what do you need that for? You don't need that. You know, is it a shame to spend money on that? You don't need it. But that time he goes, you want that? I go, yeah. He goes, tell him to put it on. So I looked over at the guy. Guy had the crazy fluffy hair on the side. He had a baseball cap on top. And I said to him, can I get that on my bike? And he looked down, he goes, that one? I go, yeah. And I thought he was going to say, okay, come back tomorrow or something. So I was getting ready to leave. He goes, I'll do it right now. Do it right now. So it took him like 5 minutes. Put it on, boom, boom, boom. He adjusted the gears in the back. That was one thing I was not good at, adjusting the gears so that they worked properly. I would always do it a little bit too tight. And instead of, you know, one being here, it would be in a different place, you know. So he did it perfect. And I remember I took the bike and rode it home. My father got in the station wagon. He drove to the house. He was home within, like, I don't know, 6 minutes. And I was going up a hill on first, and then I was shifting it. And, you know, that was my dream bike. And I ended up getting my dream bike. But, you know, I really wanted a BMX bike. But that bike was perfect for me. It became part of me. It was like a chopper. But my friend Mike, he had a BMX, a nice one with vinyl rims. His never warped. They were designed for jumping. So anyway, in closing, because I'm going to go eat now. I may be back late. Too many words there. I may be back later, but maybe not. You never know. Depends. We'll see. But anyway, in closing, I'm going to say that in the movie First Blood, just to reiterate again, that Rambo did not have this initially. This was not Rambo's. This was not John Rambo's Zippo. This was Robert A's Zippo, the guy driving the Deuce and a Half. So that's why they added that scene with him lighting up his, you know, his thing, his cigarette, because they want to show that Rambo got this from someplace. You know, otherwise they'd have to explain how this thing was able to light when it was wet. It wasn't wet. It was dry because Robert A. had it. And Robert A. dropped it, and then, you know, John Rambo pushed him out of the way, and then he ran a little bit with like a limp, and there was a cop car there, and I mean a cop driving by, and he explained to him, yeah, that Rambo guy's alive. And not only that, they get the National Guard to get one guy. How ridiculous is that? The whole police department and the entire state police and the National Guard, 200 guys, were looking for Rambo. Like overkill. Normally, a thing like that would, you know, be the police department. Local police would handle that. You know, even the state police would be too much. It's one guy, right? One guy. Anyway, so that's it for now. Ciao.